The raid is coming, and beating it on the very first day that it is available grants a whole suite of rewards such as an exclusive emblem and, of course, bragging rights. Beating a raid on day one can be a difficult challenge, but today I'm here to show you exactly how to conquer it. Well, not the raid itself specifically, obviously we don't know anything about it yet. What I will show you today, however, are practices, preparations, and pointers for beating a day one raid. And if you don't plan to run yourself or plan to start late, myself and my team will be going for the world's first title live at twitch.tv/Mactics, and we would love to have you stop by and cheer us on. This guide will include all of the weapons you will want to farm out, infuse up, and bring in with you. After that is all of the armor mods we are bringing to the party. Next we will touch on what exotic armor pieces and subclass options you will want to rock on each of the three classes. Obviously you watching this will only be playing on one of the three classes for day one, but I highly recommend watching all three of these chapters, as knowing what is in your teammates' toolkits is just as important as knowing what is in your own. After that is everything you need to know about the raid itself and how to beat it once you walk in. And finally, we can wrap up by talking about how to find a team, where to look, what to look for, what to ask for, as well as how to prepare once you do have a team. I've got a lot of solid advice that I'm thrilled to share with y'all throughout this video. If you're sitting there right now thinking that all of this sounds like good info, please do me a favor and scroll down to hit that subscribe button. I make videos like this all the time, so if this is your kind of watch, you'll definitely want to be subbed so you can see my other videos too. Thanks for supporting my content and helping the channel grow. Let's get started with your raid weapon arsenal. We're going to start by going through every weapon I personally recommend bringing to the party, and wrap up with which of these weapons pair nicely together with some example loadouts. Additionally, just because I don't mention a weapon here doesn't mean you shouldn't bring it. Comfort is key in situations like these, so if you're married to Monarch, don't let me talk you into a divorce. You'll also notice that we have a lot of void going on in here. You'll understand why once we hit the armor mod section. Additionally, there have been some weapons doing bonus damage from bugs like Ikelos SMG, and some weapons with bugged interactions like the Glaive. I will not mention any weapons that have been acknowledged as bugged by Bungie because they will surely be fixed or disabled for the race. Make sure to check out the TWAB to see what all is off the table to confirm though. It should be up a few hours after the release of this video. Okay, first up is Izanagi's Burden, the superstar of boss DPS. This weapon pairs exceptionally well with an auto-loading heavy weapon, being able to swap between the two while the other is reloading. Witherhoard is next up on the list for its exceptional ad clear, auto-loading catalyst, and superb damage. In raid encounters, enemies generally spawn from the exact same spot every time, whether it is from a door or having a telegraphed transmat. Either way, once you learn where the enemies spawn and when, you'll be able to fire a shot at them and then go pay attention elsewhere with another weapon while the Witherhoard reloads itself. Osteostriga has been the new hot thing around town and only gets better with its catalyst. Whether you are pairing it with necrotic grips or running it on its own, it packs a punch from comfortable ranges. I feel that there are better options than this guy in the energy slot that don't take up the exotic space, but having this puppy in the back pocket doesn't hurt at all. Fatebringer is the creme de la creme of legendary hand cannons, being able to sport adept big ones with a curated explosive rounds and Firefly on the time lost roll. The shtick of hand cannons in contest mode activities is their heavy hitting shots being able to stagger enemies that other weapons just can't do. Succession is our legendary sniper of choice for clearing sniper enemies from afar and easily chipping down tankier targets. Reconstruction Vorpal is your god roll, with Reconstruction Recombination coming up in second. After that, from the same Deepstone Crypt family is Heritage, a slug shotgun that can bring the same Reconstruction Recombination roll that Succession can roll. Being able to clear red bar targets with your primary to stack Recombination, then whipping out the Heritage to put a scar in a tankier target is exceptional. Blinding Grenade GLs have never not been good, and despite their damage nerf, the utility of turning the enemy's monitors off is priceless in a contest mode raid. Pardon Our Dust is your best friend for an auto-loading option, being able to come with Blinding, Auto-Loading, and Demolitionist for the best roll, and Blinding auto-loading Vorpal at second place. If you like the idea of firing off a GL more than once in a short period of time, however, Ignition Code will be your go-to choice with the same rolls as mentioned before, but with Field Prep or Slide Shot in place of the auto-loading. Onto energy weapons, we start with Divinity, a 30% debuff crit for your whole team that can last the entire DPS phase on 99% of bosses. Exceptional in situations where the boss moves a lot and has a tough crit to hit, or when you can't get up close to apply Tractor Cannon. Make sure one person on your team has this with them. Next up is the new Rainbow GL, Dead Messenger. 99% chance this doesn't get used, but should we stumble onto an encounter with a million shields, this guy will make them seem like they don't exist. Now for the weapon you knew was coming, Funnel Web is the king of the Witch Queen. Be careful about falling into the subsistence trap on this gun though, as a 7-bullet refund on a gun that will take 20 plus shots to kill a red bar in contest mode is not as cracked as people make it out to be. The final perk column is what matters big. Frenzy and Adrenaline Junkie are what you're aiming for. Reload speed or range masterwork is nice on this guy as well. I prefer Frenzy over Junkie for a day 1 raid, as it's much easier to keep active, being able to simply shoot something or get shot once every 5 seconds, instead of having to kill something every 4.5 for the Junkie. Junkie does give a 33% buff at 5 stacks compared to the 15% of Frenzy though, so high risk, high reward I guess. My recommendation is either Subsistence, Killing Wind, or Steady Hands with Frenzy, or Perpetual Motion with Adrenaline Junkie. And blinding GLs are great, right? So let's bring a Void one along with us. Truth Teller has never left the spotlight in my opinion. Being able to rock blinding auto-loading Demolitionist makes it a great blinding option for the energy slot. To stick with the theme of Void, Grid Skipper or any Void Pulse that you enjoy will be a nice long-range option for any encounter that requires it. Hell, even a Vouchsafe can work wonders here too. Imperial Needle falls under the same category. With a fast draw time and absolute god roll in Frenzy and Archer's Tempo, this thing will annihilate anything from a distance. And yes, I know it is currently bugged and doing 40% extra damage, but trust me when I say this thing can still very well be a viable contender at long range even once that gets fixed. Moving on to heavy weapons, in any situation where your team is running rockets for DPS, Gallahorn on one of your players is an absolute necessity for granting Wolfpack rounds to all legendary rockets in its proximity. Tractor Cannon is the better version of Divinity when you are not using rockets, are close to the boss, and can hit the crit easily. It allows the user to still do damage with their primary and secondary, while Divinity does not. Parasite could see use as a quick bomb on a key dangerous target, and I'd recommend keeping it in the pocket for that reason, but I don't see it being viable over other options for a long DPS phase. Wardcliff Coil recently got changed where its 50% damage penalty against bosses got removed. Whether this is intentional or not, I do not know. Keep an eye on the TWAB to see if this gets mentioned, and if it stays how it is, bring it in with you. Lament can shred at close range and dumpster barriers to boot, but it is extremely circumstantial and you probably won't use it. But hey, back pocket, right? Falling Guillotine should come to the raid with you as well for the same reasons as listed before, with the bonus being that it doesn't eat your exotic slot. Relentless Strikes and Whirlwind Blade is what you are looking for on this one. Next, we want to bring the best DPS rocket in the game, Red Herring, which can be crafted with a reload speed frame, quick launch, impact casing, enhanced field prep, and enhanced frenzy. Make sure to slap on boss spec, crouch for the bonus reload speed, and let all 10 rockets rip whatever poor thing is in front of you. An auto-loading rocket is a good thing to have too, and for that you'll want Palmyra B, craftable with a handling frame, quick launch, impact casing, enhanced auto-loading holster, and enhanced explosive light. I will admit the enhanced perks are expensive and don't make that big of a difference though, so spend the materials if you can afford to, but don't feel like you are missing out on much if you can't. Finally is Reed's Regret. Even without particle deconstruction, this thing does great into a divinity bubble. Triple tap firing line is your god roll, with triple tap Vorpal weapon at second place. So that's all your weapons. Let's talk synergies. Witherhoard, Funnel Web, and Red Herring will be your cookie cutter loadout, perfect for ad clearing, ammo efficiency, and boss DPS. You can swap the Witherhoard for Izanagi's and the Red Herring for Palmyra in a situation where you want some Izanagi's for boss DPS, and can trade the Funnel for a Pulse or Bow at any time you need some bonus range. Anything else is for you to use at your discretion. Ads overwhelming you, get some blinding grenade launchers on. Lots of close range enemies, Heritage will have your back. Have the opposite problem, Succession will have you covered. This recipe of weapons should have you set to solve any situation you are in, but we can make all of the Void ones about 100 times better with a suite of armor mods. Let's talk about them. It's no secret that Volatile Rounds is the trump card of the season, turning any Void weapon into a chaining Nova Bomb dispenser. But how are we proccing this? Picking up a Void Elemental Well grants 17 seconds of Volatile Rounds. Elemental Wells can be created from Reaping Wellmaker, a 2-energy Void mod that creates a Void Elemental Well on your next weapon final blow after you cast your class ability. You can also create wells with Elemental Ordnance, a 3-energy mod that spawns an Elemental Well that matches your subclass energy type when defeating an enemy with a grenade. Important to note though that this can only proc once per grenade. And hey, why not add even more wells? Bountiful Wells is a 2-energy solar mod that will effectively double any well that you make, which means if you use your class ability, kill an enemy with your weapon, then kill an enemy with your grenade, then you just made 4 elemental wells. If you're bringing a non-hunter and don't have access to Omnioculus damage resistance, you can also bring Well of Tenacity, a 2-energy void mod that grants damage resistance when picking up an elemental well. If you don't have enough mod slots for everything, I'd recommend either giving up this if you are an Omnioculus hunter, or dropping Elemental Ordnance if you are a Titan or Warlock. Finally, for combat mods, we have Font of Might, a 1-energy seasonal mod that grants bonus damage to any element that you pick up an elemental well for. This means that if you pick up a Void Well from Reaping Wellmaker to give you volatile rounds on all of your Void weapons, you also get a damage bonus on all of your Void weapons as well. Oh, and Red Herring is Void too, so big bonus damage on bosses there. Other than that, you'll want to rock mods that help you survive and help you stay ammo efficient. Rockets are the centerpiece of a lot of our builds, so I highly recommend Rocket Scavengers, Reserves, and Finders anytime you're using them. Utility Kickstart can also be huge on a Stasis class item to synergize with Reaping Wellmaker very well, giving you 20% of your class ability back on use. And finally, to pair with all of the Void damage, you can't go wrong with Harmonic Siphon on your helmet if you're running a Void subclass, where rapid weapon final blows with damage matching your subclass type create an orb of power. So that's all your mods. Now let's look at what each class is bringing to the party. Void is the obvious choice for hunters. Trapper's Ambush and Stylish Execution, along with Omnioculus, means damage resistance, infinite invis for your whole team, invis on volatile round kills, great ad clear with Mobius Quiver, and lots of Void elemental wells from weapon kills after dodging. For fragments, you gotta go with Expulsion, Persistence, and Remnants. Provision doesn't grant enough energy for it to be worth it, and Undermining is unnecessary when you have 2 smokes and a Shadow Dive to weaken enemies. I recommend bringing Orpheus rigs as well and swapping to them immediately before a DPS phase to let 3 Mobius trios off at the boss before using your weapons, then throwing Omni back on right after DPS. Historically, Nighthawk is a great option, but Mobius and Orpheus can do the same thing along with a subclass that has an astronomically better neutral game. For Titans, Instant Cast Bubble is fantastic for safely clearing adds and survivability, while Banner Shield giving a 40% damage bonus can make your grouped DPS phases incredibly potent. It's impossible to sleep on Thunder Crash with Curious of the Falling Star as well, so have that ready to go. For Void Exotics, Heart of Inmost Light, empowering and giving additional regeneration to all of your abilities, is the obvious choice for me. For Fragments, you can use something similar to the Hunters, but dealer's choice to mix it up a little bit if you feel like something would be better for you. If you're a Void Warlock, Devourer and Child of the Old Gods are huge. Just make sure to be careful about bringing out the Child when doing boss DPS, as the 15% weaken debuff from it will override the 30% debuffs from Divinity and Tractor Cannon. For the Super, run Cataclysm for burning a solo target, and Vortex for boss DPS. Cataclysm is awful for boss DPS as it blocks all of the shots from you and your teammates until it hits. So, yeah, don't be that guy. For Fragments, it's dealer's choice, but I recommend using something along the lines of what we recommended for the Hunters. For Exotics, Nezarac's Sin and Boots of the Assembler are stand out to me. It's obviously impossible to sleep on Well of Radiance as well. You know the drill, Phoenix Protocol to get it back quickly, Lunafaction Boots if you're using it for DPS. Now that you know what tools are at your disposal, let's talk about how you will use them to beat the raid. The raid comes with Contest Mode, a modifier that locks you at a specific light level for each encounter, meaning any power you have above that specific light level gets chopped off. 1530 is the cap for the final encounter, meaning if you and all of your armor and weapons are 1530 or higher, you are in the best possible position to win. Day 1 raids are all about 2 things, survival and discovery. This is not the place to run in face first and 1v9. Your team has 6 res tokens, and you'll need to make them last for any encounter that has a boss. The raid being contest mode means you are going to be doing way less damage than you are used to doing in current raids, so expect to take 3 to 4 DPS phases to complete any boss encounter and protect your res tokens accordingly. If someone drops and you don't have the token to get them, it's back to DPS phase 1. Playing around cover and cycling abilities is important now more than ever as well. Cycle things like bubbles, wells, rifts, shields, and invisibility. Having some sort of buff on you at all times will take the sting off of the harder hitting adds. Team shooting will do the same as well, making it much easier to stagger targets to get them to stop firing at your direction. As far as discovery goes, mechanic solving is the cornerstone of a day 1 raid. I recommend treating each encounter like an escape room. Find the final goal of the encounter, whether it be to disable a shield generator or to kill a boss, and work backwards from there to find the solution. We need to kill a boss, but he has a shield that makes him immune. How do we take down his shield? Well, we see a deposit box that looks like it takes a relic. Where do we get the relic? Etc. and etc. Look for all of the moving parts and pieces of the encounter and figure out where everything fits in. 9 times out of 10, everything will get used somewhere, some way. So check the boxes on everything that you run into and work your way through the puzzle until you escape the room. Once you figure out how to escape the room, it's consistency and execution from there. A few tips when looking for these puzzle pieces: the first place you should look when looking for a mechanic or how to solve one is your buffs and debuffs. Pay attention to what is there, see what your teammates have, pay attention to when you get them. Were any of your teammates doing anything when you received them? Did the boss do anything when you received them? Are they time-based? Answering these questions is step 1 to solving any buff or debuff based mechanic, which is a lot of them. Next up is relics. Relics will often have some sort of special abilities on their grenade, melee, or super keys. If you run into a grabbable relic, figure out all of its uses and see how they interact with other mechanics and enemies in the raid. Finally, is what not to look for in mechanics. History shows that Bungie never requires any specific elements, classes, or weapon archetypes to satisfy a mechanic, so try something else before you try to pop a Titan bubble onto a plate or shooting the wall with a void rocket thinking that it will do something special. I'm not saying it's impossible that something like this happens, just improbable based on what we have seen so far. Bungie's raid philosophy has always been that raids should mechanically be completable with any composition of loadouts and characters, and as such have never had mechanics that require something specific from these categories, and I don't see them changing that anytime soon. Whether you like it or not, your ability to synergize and coordinate with your team is going to be what makes or breaks you. If you don't have one yet, the Destiny 2 LFG Discord server is a great place to start. You can also search for a team within my Discord server if you want to run with other individuals within my community. When looking for a team, be sure to find one that has the same goals as you. If your intentions are to go for worlds first, then it is ill-advised to team up with someone who plans to give it their best 6 hours, snack and bathroom breaks included, and then call it quits. Find teammates that are looking for a similar experience and result as you are. Once you find that team, work together to find the proper class composition. Although comfort is key, 6 hunters won't be too pretty, so try to work out a balance of 1 to 2 hunters with 4 to 5 titans and warlocks. I love hunters just as much as the next guy, but making elemental wells and granting invisibility is all they can really do. Compare that to the buffs and utility that warlocks and titans bring to the table, and, well, it's tough to walk in without a lot of them. Additionally, try to designate individuals for the one divinity, tractor cannon, or Galahorn that might be necessary for boss phases. It's generally best to stick your worst DPS player on the debuff weapon, as it's significantly easier to pull off compared to perfectly reload cancel swapping Izanagi's and an auto-loading rocket. Finally is mentality. You and your teammates have grouped up together to beat up on the raid, not each other. I don't care how many mistakes someone makes, how much background noise they have going on, or what mechanic they forgot to execute. The second you begin to yell and scream at each other, your run is over. Your ability to civilly and respectfully dish out feedback and be able to receive it in equal stride is paramount to your success in this endeavor. So keep your eye on the prize and work with your teammates to get there. If there is only one thing you take from this video, let it be this. So, a lot of information. Let's boil it down. Be prepared for as many different situations when it comes to weapon loadouts, even though you will only have to use a small portion of what you bring in. Void is the king this season thanks to the seasonal mods and elemental wells, so make good use of them to be an ad clearing and ability regenerating machine. Hunters are the well makers and stealth saviors, warlocks are the healing and debuff gods, and titans are the creators of cover and big burst supers. Play your role and trust your teammates to play theirs. Finding the key to mechanics is the key to beating the raid. Don't be afraid to wipe and try all sorts of different solutions to the puzzles at hand either. Trial and error can be your best friend in these situations. And speaking of best friends, treat your teammates as such. You all have the same goal. Do not turn against each other in an effort to reach it. I hope this helps, and I would appreciate it a ton if you would consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel if it did. And hey, throw down in the comments below what class you are playing for the raid on day 1. Best of luck in the pyramid, thanks for watching, and as always, have a great day.